But she can't do that.
Good evening. Welcome you all to the Fayette County School Corporation Board of School Trustees Business Meeting here at the Administration Building. It's Tuesday, November 10th at 6:30 p.m. Let's all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we're going to start tonight with a presentation by Terry Miller related to technology.
Thank you, President Jacobs. Thank you, board, CAB members. I'm Terry Miller, Director of Technology for Fayette County School Corporation, and I'm going to give you a presentation tonight. I'm going to start off with, you don't know what you don't know. Came across a quote today. Experience is the best teacher, and the worst experiences teach the best lessons.
Amen.
So I have information to share with you, observations in context of what technology and instruction and learning look like during a pandemic, what our continuing efforts are, and some new tools. We started some planning in March, and it was clear that technology focus for students returning to school would revolve around these top four goals. In the context of student health and safety, I can't start this conversation without talking about redistricting. As we look at redistricting, we needed to create rooms. And in order to create rooms, it was time to get rid of the computer labs in the elementary buildings. Another reason to look at getting rid of those is they were shared devices, shared workstations. And the quantity per room would have made social distancing absolutely impossible. So we first task when the team returned this summer was start getting rid of all the technology that was in the computer labs. And from the surveys at the end of the school year, it was very clear from teachers, patrons, that we needed a more comprehensive one-to-one program. So we are now a one-to-one device to student throughout the entire corporation. And additionally, there's approximately 140 iPads that were deployed in the early childhood programs. So preparing and having those ready to school start, that was over 2,500 devices. 700 of some were at the high school, and students kept those over the summer. In other words, we're talking about something in the neighborhood of 3,100 devices in student hands, and then add in the professionals and the certified teachers. We're pushing 3,400 devices that are out there we support. I wanted to thank the board for the approval of the Common School Education Technology Loan at the April meeting. That is what facilitated the deployment of the one-to-one in the grades 3 through 6 this year. We've expanded our use of Google Education with an Enterprise Edition. That allows us to have Google Meet for support of e-learning and hybrid learning and students enrolled in My School Online. Again, experience is the best teacher, and the worst experiences teach us the best lessons. The introduction of webcams, teachers introduced to online, the workstations evolved and became more robust. At the high school, those who were doing online and those high school teachers who were teaching multiple subjects, who would have known? They bring up their browser, and now they have multiple tabs up on their browser because they can switch over and teach the next subject. That required more memory. Didn't know that in March. So we've been working on making the workstations more robust, making more innovative. The teachers have found more innovative uses for their smart boards and their document cameras to support online. And for the high school, dual monitors, and with their projectors and their smart boards, actually it's 3 monitor devices that they're using. Infrastructure, supporting infrastructure. In April, as a response to the pandemic, USAC, who facilitates the E-rate program, extended to a 6th year the option to acquire networking hardware. So that allowed us to fund $74,000 worth in Wi-Fi updates. That's about 1/3 of our access points that provide Wi-Fi throughout our elementary, middle, and high school. It was also inclusive in an opportunity to have the equipment that built the infrastructure for the new field house.
Does everyone understand the E-rate category of funding, how that works?
Go ahead and
Where that
explain it
fund
to us
comes from?
again.
Just explain, where does that fund with the cell phones?
How long, you look at your landline if you have a bill for your landline, or you look at your cell phone, you've got all those little fees that are added on. Looks like taxes. They're not. That is funding created by the war, to help pay for the War of 1812, I believe. And legislation has continued on, and it now is used to fund technology and internet for schools and libraries. About 3.5 years ago, I presented our first round of E-rate funding was $420,000. So with this addition of, in this round of $74,000, that brings us to, in the last 3.5 years, had the opportunity to invest in $494,000 worth of technology infrastructure. Then again in September, just a couple months ago, schools were open, and finding that online instruction looked different, the USAC E-rate program came back and said, okay, do you need more bandwidth? You think you need more bandwidth? We're going to open up a limited window where you can file for what's called Category 1 funding, and that's for paying for the services, your internet lines, your network between your buildings. My last presentation in September of 2019, I showed you this slide, what our utilization was over the course of the first few weeks of school. And what I have highlighted there is the amount of data that we send out. So if you look at this, the teal is how much we're consuming, and the red is how much we're producing. So our internet use was as consumers. We were consuming information. Same period of time in 2020. We have increased by 6 times the amount of information we are generating and sending out to the internet. Combination, Google Meet, more incorporation of Google Classroom, more online related submission of materials. So I got concerned. E-rate said in September, do you need more bandwidth? If you look at these highlights, 66% of our internet bandwidth over a 5-minute period. 68% over 5 minutes, 68% over 5. 78% over a 5-minute period. Now, if the average is 78% in a 5-minute period, we were most likely maxing out our internet connectivity. And the pattern still continues to this day. So we are going to take advantage. We filed, we are in review, but we are going to double our internet speed. Mr. Collins always likes to look at this graph because when he came here in 2015, right? Our internet was 200 megs per second. And by the time second semester start, it will be 2,000 megs per second. That will be a 10-fold increase. And the other thing I want to highlight is what that expense has been to the corporation on a monthly cost. From 2015 to today, we got 10 times more internet, and our expense is half of what we were paying in 2015,
Can you explain
2016.
why is that?
Pardon me?
Why is that?
Yeah, does your home internet bill go down? Right? I'm like, why don't I see this on my data
Yeah.
plan or my home internet? We moved from an expensive platform that relied upon copper to fiber in 2018. We moved to fiber throughout all our facilities. The telcos really liked that direction, give us some incentive. Additionally, E-rate covers 90% of our internet bill.
Okay.
So the actual bill that comes in right now is currently is $15,000, and the telcos writes off 14, and we pay, well, approximately, but we end up paying $1,425, I think, per month. And the reason for that is poverty. Our free and reduced percentage impacts what our ratio is, and we have increased to the point where they now cover 90% of our expense. And certainly, until economic conditions change, we'll continue to be a benefit to that type of program.
But in theory, Terry, when Terry came to me and we met, he looked at, we can double our bandwidth, which will take care, because we've raised this, what, 2 or 3 times since I've been here.
Oh, yeah.
And we kept doubling it, and we thought we can double it from where it's at now for $200 a month. Is that about right? 205?
Our expense would be
$2,500 a year, we can double our bandwidth with the E-rate funding and receiving those funds. So it was a really a great, Terry, I appreciate all he does to keep us up on that, but that was an easy decision to double our bandwidth.
So yes, 10 times more internet and half the cost from 5 years ago. Over the summer, there was some funding made available in what the governor announced and the DOE announced as the Governor's Emergency Education Relief. It was to be directed at technology. I think the paperwork on that just concluded, in the last week, 10 days?
Yeah.
So we received $405,000. So what are our plans? Well, I've talked about what we've been doing for our buildings and for our students. And one aspect, our goal is what are we going to do for those who have no internet? We need to address the homework gap. There are a number of emerging technologies. There are a number of programs out there right now. I'm reviewing them. I don't have a recommendation for the board yet where we should go. Additionally, we are going to expand coverage outside of our buildings. We're going to provide Wi-Fi on the exterior of our buildings so it will cover the surrounding areas. In town, there will be some benefit for some people. Fayette Central, Everton, best we have to offer in that case will be, parking lot's going to be covered.
Yeah.
But talk about Eastview, let's say, or Maplewood, with that coverage, how far will that approximately extend with homes?
The technology that we're looking at is supposed to give us 450 feet from the building. So Grandview, Maplewood, Frazee, you know, we'll make some headways. Some of the other technology that we're looking at is what they call MiFis, that create a hotspot off of a cellular signal. And there's a lot of emerging technology there right now. And the other concern is if we provide that, just like a library book, go to the media center, check it out, right? If we provide that, there's a limited amount of time that we're going to be able to provide that. The grant's only going to cover a limited number of months, and that will set up a concern when we're not going to provide it anymore because we're not going to pay for it out of pocket. We have grant money to pay for it now. Concern for parents in the future that, okay, you know, we can't provide that service anymore. So a lot of things to consider, a lot of things that we're looking at.
With the MiFis, I mean, I used to have one back before Hillfi came to town, and I used that through Verizon. But you only get, well, on the plan we had, I forget how much usage. And so when my kids would come home and everybody had their laptop, you know, I was done for the month. So would that be also an issue if family members decided, ooh, now we've got internet?
That's correct, that is an issue.
Yeah.
I've had conversation, I'm not sure if you're familiar with the 10 million project. T-Mobile has a plan for the next 10 years to provide 10 million Wi-Fi devices for free to students. And again, it's a limited per month cap. However, they have a scaled in process where I can pay another $10 or another $15. If I go digital, $15 on top of that free device, $15 per month, it would become unlimited. The application I have for that is in process. I'm not a grant writer. It's 3 pages long, you know, 75 questions. So that's an emerging opportunity to look at as well. So I have the exact same concern. We have to have unlimited as part of that. And that could fit in with what we have budgeted aside in the GEAR Fund to make that work. The GEAR Fund also facilitates student devices. I think we have $300 per device of around 650 students. So we can revisit some of the hardware, some of the devices we have out there and look to replace. And it also provides $500 per teacher workstation. I think it's up to 160 teachers. So as we look at teacher workstations supporting these online activities, you need to be more robust. We have a funding mechanism for that.
I think it's good to look at too, when you add these two numbers together, that's $900,000 in the last 3.5 years to support our technology efforts that is being provided at the federal level. Well, this is the federal dollars at the state level, the governor had but still, that's significant, almost $1 million that's supporting our technology, so.
Communications tools. Announcing tonight our new websites.
Some of us have seen it.
Oh, you can't have like you have those.
Oh.
Our new
It's
websites
pretty.
are one of the challenges with communicating what's our plan, latest, you know, it was very fluid. Mr. Collins had challenges, everyone had challenges, it's very fluid. What's our next announcement? What are we posting? Collecting that up, getting those things on websites. It was just very clear it was no longer a tool that we wanted to continue to use to communicate with our parents and our students. So we have gone live on our new websites. We are in the process of taking the old websites down. And I'm not going to bore you with going through looking at websites. But you know, we need to work towards changing printed literature, things of that nature that begins to highlight what our new branded, this is now Fayette County. It's not our previous providers in our link. This is now branded as Fayette County. And this design and this work is in partnership with Q7 Marketing. I think Mr. Collins has mentioned Q7 before, and I believe you shared the brand guide with the board that showed the various logos and the fonts and the colors. So
Reed Health provided the funding for that to help with our re-imaging and some of this work. So they provided the cost of the Q7 services, so.
But the website's only as good as the browser. A browser requires a computer. What's your anticipation? How many more smartphones are there out there in our community than computers, right?
Right.
So tonight, I am announcing FCSC Connect. It is our school app. And I have a video for you.
Introducing the brand new app for Fayette County School Corporation on Android and iPhone. It's everything FCSC schools in your pocket. This is the home screen. Tap the school's icon in the top right or swipe left to select a specific school. Tap the 3 horizontal lines in the top left or swipe right to see all the menu items. To turn on push notifications, tap Settings and select Turn on Notifications. The Events section shows a list of events throughout the school. You can use this button to add an event to your calendar, or tap here to share the event with friends and family. The live feed is where you'll find updates from administration about what's going on throughout the school, whether that's celebrating a student's success or reminding you about an upcoming deadline. Search FCSC Connersville Schools in the App Store or Play Store to explore the app for yourself. It's everything FCSC schools in your pocket.
Who was clapping back there? All right, Randy.
Have your smartphone on you?
No.
You can go to the.
I
is it
downloaded
iPhone?
I cheated and I had previous information about this, but,
Sorry. I was there yesterday. I could not.
well, just about the meeting today, but I haven't gone through it, like, so when you push your notifications, now that I've done that, what will happen? How will I know that I've got a notification?
Do you have
Do I have
any
to
sort of
open
an
the
app that gives you a notification or there was just a large transaction done on your bank account and it comes up? Or a Facebook app that says, hey, somebody just posted, gives you a notification? Or
So
for
when
me,
you
it's-
open the app, will there be an icon that says like 1, 2, 3, like you've got 3 notifications? No.
No, yes, it will.
Your icon on your home screen will show the notifications too.
Yeah.
But then it'll come up as a little pop-up box.
So like the FCSC Connect would have a 1 if there was a notification?
I don't believe it would, no.
Oh, okay.
I've not,
No, it
I've not
does.
observed that yet.
I
Okay.
think it does, Terry.
Does it?
I'll send one out. I may be wrong, but do any of you know, have you done it? We haven't gone live with this yet. This is the unveiling tonight.
So I pushed receive notifications from Fayette County School Corporation, so that would be from you, I would assume.
Mhm.
And then like under the documents, and then you go to administration, then you go to school board trustee, then school board information, that's where all the things would be. Okay, I don't know what just happened.
Some of that organization of what's in documents, we're still working on.
Oh, okay,
Cindy's-
that might have been what just happened, okay.
Cindy is still
This is great, though.
working through the different aspects of how the,
So these are the live feeds, you probably can't see it, these are the ones that we put out today. You can see the little boxes that come up. So they'll come
That's
up as a
under
little
live?
pop-up box.
I just
Under
know
live
that I clicked on school calendar and it gave me a signal that says app is not working and it's shut down.
well,
Is that because you don't have it loaded in there?
let me show you part of that process, and it was in the video, is when you install it, it asks you to allow for notifications and go into settings, and you need to pick your default school. So when you bring up the app, it would default news feeds, live feed, and so on for that specific school. Make sure you have your notifications turned on, and then at the bottom, you pick which schools you want to receive notifications from, and you save it. So it's not just a straightforward install the app. You do need to go into settings and set up your preferences.
And we'll be sending this out to our parents and community too, to tell them that, but if this is how we're planning to communicate school closing, Mr. Judd can send out mass notices to everyone through this. We needed a communication tool like this district-wide, so this is that step. So when I'm out driving the roads at 5 a.m., I can just put a message out, when I pulled my vehicle over, officers, and park, and then message that out, and it'll push out, and it'll be on your phone, when you turn your phone on, the message.
Who developed this app?
Aptigee.
Okay.
It's like when I
Did
do
they-
this and I press
Is
open.
this
Probably good.
in
Dashboard.
conjunction with, what was the software program we
And
purchased?
if I
for
do it
buses?
again,
For the
or
buses
a
and
different
whatnot?
document, like
Transpinder.
food
Yeah, so
service,
doesn't
like,
it have that technology? Do we need to do
what did
that?
I click on? Maybe
It's a
that,
different,
And I do that.
Daryl can use that, but it's not adaptable to something like that, no.
Okay.
That's
Oh, I-
more adaptable to
So,
Power.
is that my
School for
phone
our
or is that the
students.
app?
Okay, I thought it was kind of, Transponder was kind of like,
I-
hey, if school's closing, we use Transponder to notify
I'm gonna
parents.
review that with
that-
my guys, because
No,
I'm
not quite the same. We have,
Okay.
we have a parent app for that. We
Because maybe I need to
call it
uninstall and
track it
reinstall?
Through GPS, but we
Yeah.
haven't gone live with that.
Okay, okay.
No, that's different.
Okay.
I do like the staff page, all of you have your lovely pictures on here. That is delightful.
I have a question. There are some people that don't have smartphones, and some parents do not have smartphones. All they have is a regular computer or an iPad or something.
Or a flip phone.
Or flip, thank you, Mark. Is the same information that you're gonna disseminate through this app going to be available on the older technologies, like through the Chromebook, through the iPads, through regular emails, other kinds of media? Because there were kids today that were out waiting for the bus this morning, high school kids, that somehow did not get the message that they did not have school today. And so I think people would like to think that everybody has this kind of technology available to them, but in truth, that is not necessarily so. So this is great for somebody that has the device, but can we get the same information out using the older devices? Or is this going to replace that method of communication?
This is the first phase of a rollout of our app. In addition to the ability to send out notifications, Mr. Collins will have the option to post it to Facebook at the same time,
Okay.
post it to Twitter at the same time, send it to the web pages on live feed, send the notifications, send text messages, and phone call, make a robocall.
Oh, wow.
But the challenge with that, why those kids probably didn't know, is because we don't have accurate information in our Power School system, because Mr. Judd sent out communications. One of the challenges we need help from parents is updating your cell phone numbers with the school. That's a continual issue, and so our stuff's only as good as what information you give us. So that's something that, you know, is good to remind our patrons is make sure you keep your info up, because that's probably your biggest challenges as building leaders with communication, isn't it? So many email addresses and phone numbers are wrong because a lot of people change phones frequently. So that's our biggest challenge.
Besides the phone call, it will also do an email. So he has 6 options that he can click across and broadcast. Mr. Judd, Mr. Todd, Mrs. McCollum, they all have the same ability too. All the admin team has the ability to go in and share information and improve our communication.
And then, so much is put, I don't know where it is, Remind, Google Classroom, somewhere, because a lot of kids, I saw a couple of kids today who are off school today, e-learning, and I said, so do you know what your schedule's gonna be for the hybrid? Oh, we're doing hybrid, do you know what the schedule is? And one kid said, oh, it's probably, I probably have to go into my Chromebook, I haven't looked yet. So I'm assuming that kind of information is also disseminated to the students through their devices that are provided by the school. Is that accurate?
Yeah.
They all have school emails, and they definitely get school emails with information.
Is that where kids go? Do kids go to their email to look for that, or is it Google Classroom? I don't know all that.
Both places. They're in
Okay.
Google Classroom every day probably if they're doing what they're supposed to do. But any information that I send, I have to send by email to students and parents.
Okay.
And with this new technology, it will be so much easier to post it everywhere with one push of a button.
And all of our kids have a G account, a Google email account, so.
Is that how they communicate with their teachers sometimes?
Yeah.
Okay.
Through Google Classroom.
Okay.
Randy, I'm
So
not,
your point is well taken. You know, you talked about Remind and all the, there's Class Dojo. And
Yeah, I don't know all, yeah.
That's why the consideration for the app, we need to have our platform that is, consistent across all buildings, all grade levels, as opposed to, well, at this building where I have a student, say middle school, they're doing this, and at the elementary, well, they're doing this. And so we want to create a cohesive communication tool, and our FCSE Connect app will give us that ability. Covers social media and centralizes all of our electronic communication.
I was just gonna say, thinking of high school kids, seems to me like, even though I'm 6 years removed, that they're very into updating their phones, smartphones, more than their computers, more than a lot of things in their lives. They're on top of their smartphones. And I'm not very technologically advanced, but I get a lot of notifications on my phone. It's 10 years old, it's an iPhone 5, but I get news headlines that I request, they
Right.
pop up, the sports headlines.
Right, I get
pop up.
those too, I hadn't realized, I just didn't know how this will show up, but
Yeah, I
yeah.
just think it'll be what the person asked for is what I'm guessing, isn't that
Right.
the way? Here's what I want to get, which school or whatever, but I think high school kids are pretty much, I don't know, they're on top of that, the ones I talk to.
And middle school kids.
Well, I don't see many of them. Yeah.
No, but they are very tech savvy, our kids are, more than us.
In summary, it takes a great team to make all these things happen. They do a great job pre-pandemic. They've done a fantastic job during the pandemic, so my heartfelt gratitude out to the technology team. Thank you. One
Thank
last
you.
note. Using our Apogee app, Mr. Collins tweeted at 6:50 the links for Android and iPhone. It's a scheduling process. And on Facebook at 6:50, it posted as well. So for our patrons who are watching, check Twitter if you follow Mr. Collins, or check the school corporation's Facebook page, and the links are there for you to use to install the app on your Android or iPhone.
Wow, great. That happened quickly.
It's magic.
Thank you, Terry.
Thank
Thank you so much. Well, that was fascinating. Okay, moving on, I'd like to seek a motion to approve the agenda as submitted and amended.
Madam President, I so move.
Thank you, Chris. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Thank you, Dennis. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by raising your hand. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We'll now move on to patron comments on agenda items. Seeing none, move on to the consent agenda, which includes the approval of minutes from the regular business meeting of 10/13/2020 and the special meeting of 10/22/2020, personnel report, retirements, resignations, leaves of absences, etc. Approval of the October 2020 claims 57602 through 57832, and a donation of flux core welding wire valued at $1,500 from Hobart Brothers Filler Metal Division in conjunction with Hobart Welding Institute in Troy, Ohio, to WCC's welding program to be used for training purposes. Okay, so seeing the consent agenda, I'd ask for a motion to approve.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Lori. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Ann. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by raising your hand. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Action items. We'll move on to the personnel report. Mr. Harris.
Good evening. Got a few items here coming up. First, personnel report. Now I'll go through it, making recommendations for employment for classified staff for Carla Combs, developmental pre-K education assistant, Tania Everidge for ISS extended day at the middle school, Gilda Lewis, special education assistant at Eastview, Sierra Lunsford, developmental pre-K education assistant at Little Spartan Preschool, Tiffany Morgan, Head Start floating education assistant at the preschool, Jonathan Robbins, custodian for the high school, Tasha Steele, special education assistant at Eastview, and Catherine Tibler, Head Start nutrition bus assistant at the preschool. Moving on to extracurricular, a couple of those, Jason McHenry for JV head softball coach, and John Sturing as JV assistant softball coach. Then going on, this is kind of our catch-up month after we approved the contract last year, last month for the teacher or the special meeting. We've got a number of items here for the rest of the staff, I guess you could say. I'm recommending for approval of the classified class stipend and administrative staff salary increase. Real briefly, the classified staff stipend, recommending that those classified staff members that essentially work less than 230 days would receive a stipend of $350. Those that are at 230 days or more would receive a stipend of $500. The administrative staff salary increase, this is a recommendation for their base salary, and it is based on the $1,000 pay increase that the teachers received, and then it's based on the number of day contracts. So some have shorter contracts, some have longer contracts. Also, then I'm recommending the approval of a licensed staff salary. These are like our SLPs, we have social workers and those types of things, a similar increase to them. And in addition to that, to their normal base salary increase, we also have SLPs that have worked simultaneously, both with students in front of them as well as online during all of this COVID. And so I'm recommending that those 4 staff members are going to be paid out of special education funds to receive a similar stipend to what the online teachers received during that. And where am I down to now? Then lastly, have the Teacher Appreciation Grant local funding. We do not know yet what the exact amount is that we're going to receive from the state, but they will be sending that out, we anticipate, within the next month. And one of the stipulations with the grant is that it's supposed to be paid out within 20 days. So depending on when they release the money and when we have board meetings, it becomes somewhat difficult to do. But I'm recommending that we do the grant following the adoption that you approved back in September, whereby we have to differentiate between highly effective teachers and the effective teachers of 25%. But then we are also recommending that the remainder of the teachers that out of education funds or out of other local funds, that we make all teachers whole, I will say, to bring them up to that 25%, as well as the other staff members that are mentioned in that to make that appropriate. So.
Yeah, I know you just said you don't know how much the grant is, but any idea how much that 25%, that dollar number is? Do we know what that is?
We don't know what it is until we know what the final amount is. Typically, the grant usually is around $500 to $600. So that difference is somewhere in the $100 range, $125 range.
Okay.
But until we get those figures, that's just a speculation. I
So
don't
really
know
not a
that.
significant amount of money. I mean, we're not talking 30, 40 grand, nothing like, I mean, we're talking pretty minimal amount of money.
Relatively speaking, yes.
Yeah, not to downplay what I'm talking, not to downplay what teachers are getting, I'm just saying from a business or a corporation.
From corporate, I would say this does not bust the budget.
There you go.
I mean, it is significant to everybody.
Absolutely.
And we really appreciate all of our staff do. And I
Absolutely.
think this proposal shows that we don't care whether you're driving a bus, whether you're teaching a classroom, wherever it may be you're in the district, everybody that works with our kids is important. And I think that this recommendation expresses that, and through
Yeah, just-
hopefully approval, the board will agree
Just when
with
you have
that.
25% differential, and, you know, for the people that are watching and listening, they might be, geez, is that, you know, how much is that? If it was 5 or 10%, you would think off the top of your head, okay, well, it's probably. not
I will tell you, it's in excess of $30,000.
Oh, it is? Okay.
When you add everything together there,
When you take $125 times 250 people, you do
Yes, so-
that math, it's, and then you add in these other staff that don't qualify, because the one negative with this, the state sort of pits the teachers against counselors and social workers and SLPs, and, you know, so our board has always taken that action that all licensed staff in the state, in the district, receive comparable amount. So that's where it is a significant amount of money, but we budget for that.
Okay, well, that's my
Plan for
whole
that.
point of the question, was to make sure,
Right.
there's been a lot of talk over the last few months about how, you know, virtual is handled versus 100 versus 85%, how that's gonna affect us, and just for us to remain financially capable of going into that, you know, into the next year and so forth. And we're always talking about how we've had a loss of students, a loss of tuition at roughly 6,500, and you start adding all those numbers up, and, you know, I'm not trying to take anything away from anybody in the school
Sure.
corporation. We're very fortunate to have everybody, but you just, you know, you have to make everything make sense. So, just a question. So thanks.
No, I appreciate that. And one caveat with that too is with our support staff, they're, you know, a lot of districts don't do a stipend and things, but this has been a practice here for several years with our support staff, and the timing's usually right before the holidays. But I want everyone to remember too that you approved last year a 2-step increase on the hourly employees' schedules too. So people may not see, well, what about our support staff and our custodians and maintenance? And they received a 2-step increase July 1st. So they won't be getting back pay from that because we started paying them from the start of this.
Okay.
So that's important too, because that was another significant increase for them that is comparable to what our teachers were receiving. So. then
And we were glad to do that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
That was
Yes.
it was something different we did, not been a past practice, but, you know, a lot of these folks are they're our lowest paid people, and waiting until December to get that raise, basically, after the board approves it, this was a way to do it July 1st.
Well, and these are the people that don't get paid over the summer.
Exactly, a lot of them don't.
Yeah.
Does the tag usually come in, the teacher appreciation grant, before the holidays? Is that?
it usually comes in
Okay.
December.
Okay.
I mean, we are anticipating that all of this is, I say anticipating, so I don't want to get everybody's hopes up till we see the money actually. we're hoping that we would be able to distribute all of this no later than the December 24th pay.
Pay period.
We normally
Yeah.
get paid on the 25th, but obviously with Christmas Day, we'll be paid the day before that. So we're hoping that it will be paid out no later than that date.
Could be the 10th, it could be the
Yeah.
first
Right,
day of the
right.
week, depending on when it comes through the state.
That'd be
But
nice.
we're
And
ready
then
for
we have the
that.
29th.
That would be very nice.
It's just nice to see, I'm really thankful that I think we all are, that you make up the school corporation makes up the 25% difference, especially this year. It's been really tough on teachers and administrators and support staff and everybody, and having that extra, was it $90,000 that we're gonna give out for the virtual,
Right.
which is, great. So I'm glad that, you guys are right on top of that. That's great, so, thank you.
Thank you, you guys are the ones who approved that, so.
Okay, well, you might want to just hang out there if you're done, because I know. we've got
I'm
to-
moving away for
Okay.
a couple of items here, I hope.
All right, so you're done with the personnel
Yep,
report?
that's the personnel report.
Okay, so I'd like to seek a motion to approve the personnel report.
I so moved.
Thank you, Ann. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Thank you, Chris. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by raising your hand. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We'll now move on to bus purchase.
Okay, the next item that I have there is, I have a recommendation that I am passing along, that give thanks that Mrs. McCollum has written into the Head Start grant funds to purchase 2 new buses to be used for the Head Start program. So all of the costs for these have been included in the grant, so these don't come out of typical operation funds, transportation, or any of those. So these buses are 20-passenger buses. Obviously, she didn't write the specifications. All this came through Transportation Department, and recommending the purchase of 2 new buses to be used for Head Start.
And these will have the stop arm cameras on them as well, which, we're gradually trying to get those on our buses as well, so.
Are these buses bigger than the 2 buses we're trading in? So the 2011 buses,
Well, they're a little bigger,
A
aren't they?
little bit bigger.
Yeah.
yes.
oh, okay, I was gonna say the 2011 buses depreciate that quick, from 120, well,
65,000.
would be, 65 down to 48.
I
Yeah, but
will
Scott
tell-
brought up a good point about that, about how much more use those buses get than the regular
They run
buses.
midday routes too, they get a lot of wear and tear with stops.
Yeah, so they got over 100,000
But
miles.
depreciation, you don't get a lot for a used bus.
Okay,
I'm just gonna throw it out there, it was amazing, after we got the price of the bus, trade-ins and all of that, we ended up, first Daryl came back to me and said, I need $38 more. And I said, what? And he said, that's the difference, and ended up, the bus company called him and said, we'll just call it between the trade-ins and all of that, so, they worked with us very well, Daryl worked with us very well.
38 bucks.
This is one of those, again, using non-local funds, it's nice to be able to provide this for our preschool students
Right.
with a Head Start, and.
And
be
there's
able
no
to create a-
stipulation with Head Start dollars, can it be used for the other preschool?
This was actually additional funding besides our base
Right.
grant. This was a supplemental health and safety funding for 2 new buses that we identified through our self-assessment, community assessment, the need for. So I was able to write additional grant for this extra money, so it's not even the pot that we get.
It's not even our normal Head Start, even it's
Okay.
above and beyond that.
No,
Okay, that's great.
Thank you, Kelly.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
She
we've
gets a pat on
ident-
the back for it.
we've identified that transportation for the preschool kids and the Head Start kids is one of the major issues. Because so many of, we have no public transportation in essence in Connersville, or very little. So, thank you.
All right, I would like to seek a motion to approve the bus purchase.
I'll make a motion.
Thank you, Andy. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Lori. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by raising your hand. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Okay, Mr. Harris on substitute teacher pay.
The next one, and I'm gonna give the thanks to Mr. Circler, but he did some investigation of surrounding school districts. What do they pay for substitute teachers? All of those kind of things. We're in the ballpark, but we thought it was time that we bump those up a little bit. And so I'm making a recommendation, and we've added to it a little bit, but recommending that a sub with a high school diploma or HSE goes from $70 to $75. The next category we did not plan it for this, but knowing that tomorrow is Veterans Day, we also want to recognize those people in the community a little bit, so we've kind of added a little bit more to their pay, that we put them on the same category as with the bachelor's degree, so I'm recommending that a bachelor's degree, or if they have military service, that they would receive $85 a day. And a retired teacher, we've taken that actually from $90 up to $100 is the recommendation. So this is what I'm recommending, and I'm recommending it tonight to take effect on January 1. So this won't take effect right now, but after the first of the year, then we would increase those with the board's approval.
All right, I would like to see,
Could I add something? One of the things, and I subbed for 5 years every day after I retired from my own classroom. One of the issues that comes up is this is for people going in a classroom to take the place of a teacher. Do we have any provisions for paying a sub for classroom aides? Because this was taken out of the budget a few years ago, and if they don't seek a substitute for a classroom aide, there's a certain very narrow exceptions to that with some special education thing. Is there anything that's been discussed about trying to find substitutes for classroom aides? Because if you have an aide in your class, and then the teacher, you're just not going to serve your students. And I understood why they didn't do that, and it's very frequent that the classroom aides now get pulled in to be a substitute teacher for the day because they can't find subs. Because I know that's a real difficult situation. Has this been addressed, that actually trying to find substitutes for the classroom aides as well as the teachers?
We do get subs for life skills.
Yeah, I knew that.
And we always want to make sure that we're meeting minutes. IEP minutes. So when we write IEPs, our assistants and our teachers, they're all tied to minutes. So Megan Gilman does an excellent job of working with our administrators and making sure that if they do have to pull an aide to cover, that it's not a consistent thing. That's our last choice, because we have some cushion built in there in terms of maybe the teacher is absent, or maybe the student is absent, or we have a professional development day. But there's not a lot of wiggle room with IEPs and minutes. So we will always hire a sub if we feel like an IEP can't be met or the minutes aren't going to be met. But most of the time we're able to kind of it's not consistent. Like now, if an aide's going to be out for an extended period of time for an illness, then we would get that person covered. But usually if it's one day here and there, we're covered within our IEPs and the amount of minutes that we serve.
And the other thing, we are not abnormal from any other school district. It is difficult getting enough subs in right now.
Absolutely.
In fact, I'm going to make, even here before you vote, a little bit of a plea. Universities are going through all of this COVID stuff also, and we've been made, and I think many people are aware, many universities are going to stop in location classes at Thanksgiving, and they've extended their Christmas break from Thanksgiving, and even went beyond that in January, and some of them are eliminating spring break. So once they get back towards the end of January, then they're going to go all the way to the end of the year. But if you know of or have college students that are home for winter break and they're doing things virtually, or they are available, we would love to have them come in and get qualified, get their student teaching, or not just student teaching, but their sub-license, and be able to get them back in the classroom. Education majors, it's a really good learning experience, but it doesn't have to be an education major. Any former student that wants to come back, and if they just say, hey, I can substitute teach from December the 1st till January the 22nd, anything helps us. So I would encourage them to contact us in HR, and we can get them all the information to get them signed up too. And anybody else out there, we do have a real need for
Well, this process there have been real down times, and for a variety of reasons, between the time that a person has applied to be a sub and did not have a sub license. Is there a system by which we can expedite this a little bit? Because sometimes it takes 2, 3, 4 weeks.
It
and-
shouldn't take that long.
Okay.
One of it is we've got to do a background check on them.
Oh, sure.
And there's the other thing, if they know today that they, will listen to this, or if mom, dad says, hey, here's something for you to do when you're home, contact us, we will work with them. They can be in Evansville right now in classes, and we can work with them to get the process started now. They don't have to get up here physically to get everything started, so we can start the ball rolling a little bit before they get back home.
So, and these would be people who would be making $75 a day, correct?
Correct.
And the state has streamlined the process of getting licenses. It's much quicker today than it was even a few years ago. And then we also, I don't remember exactly, they sub so many times, we'll reimburse their costs for the licensing and the check. I think it's after 10.
I can't remember exactly, there's kind of an
5 or 10.
upfront cost is about
But then we'll reimburse
$60, but after they've subbed 10 times, then we reimburse that cost back to them also.
I'm going to expose do we still use the ASOP system for filling substitutes?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, thank you, Randy. I would like to seek a motion to approve the substitute teacher pay.
I will move that.
Thank you, and do I hear a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mark. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by raising your hand. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Okay, Mr. Collins, the approval of the 2021 school board calendar.
Thank you, Ms. Jacobs. Board. In your packet is our proposed calendar with our 2021 meetings. Follows the same process, same timeline with the second Tuesday of each month. There is an exception for this on April 20th, and that's pending the school board's conference and what happens with that. So if we don't have that, which it's hard to tell, we could change that in advance at another meeting and move that to the second Tuesday rather than the third. Calling attention to January 12th, we have to reorganize as a board each year within the first 15 days. So ideally, it's easier to have that on the third Tuesday at times just because of the holidays, but we have to do that within the first 15 days. So that will be the meeting in January where our newly elected board members will be sworn in again. And then we'll do the finance committee and the board officers. So remember, that's like 3 small meetings. So we will have that at the January meeting. Everything else is pretty standard with following that second week in Tuesday. And then, of course, we always have a few special meetings or executive sessions that are required to be called. So that those are scheduled as needed. That's it.
All right, thank you. I would like to seek a motion to approve the 2021 school board meeting calendar.
Madam President.
Thank you, Chris. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Dennis. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by raising your hand. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. And on to the school board policies, Mr. Collins.
Thank you. Last month I reviewed the first reading of 2 policies. The first is, it's a combination of 2 policies related to sexual harassment. We had one for students and for staff, so we are placing that into one area in our operations section of our board policy. It will be policy 2.12, and the language is the same regardless of who that person may be with possibly causing any type of sexual harassment. It does name Randy as our Title IX coordinator, and that position is Director of Operations. And then it just goes through the whole process with how you handle complaints, defines what sexual harassment is, the grievance process, and how we act on that as a district. So this is the guidance for that. In our appendix, which you don't necessarily approve, it just ties in with their policy. That's the formal reporting mechanism that our administrators or staff would use to report any incidents of sexual harassment. So that is the first policy for consideration for approval tonight. And then the second is policy 5.33 with the extracurricular drug testing, and there is one change in section 2B where our past practice has been per board policy to only have the urinalysis with our students selected for drug tests, and that we would include the swab test. So that's the only change in that policy, and this would allow primarily CHS to utilize a swab test. A lot less intrusive at times and more cost effective, and they've proven to be accurate as well, so. That's it.
All right, thank you. I would like to seek a motion to approve School Board Policy 2.12 and Policy 5.33.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Lori. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Andy. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by raising your hand. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Now's the time for public comments. Persons wishing to make the board aware of suggestions, ideas, and/or comments may address the board at this time. Comments which involve personnel or students must be discussed in private. Seeing none, we will move on to report items. Superintendent discussion group reports, principal director reports, director of operations reports.
I just want to go back. I haven't been up here for a couple minutes. Actually, there's just really what I wanted to talk on tonight briefly is our cafeteria. All of our cafeterias in Chartwell, running those, I've been very impressed with the great job they do, but I just want to give you a heads up mainly because of COVID and other things, the cafeteria funds have increased their balance in such a way that the federal government is now requiring that we come up with a plan of how to spend down some of those funds. And so, just really to give you a heads up that you're going to see about 4 pretty good sized purchase orders over the next couple of months as we do that. But we are going to be adding a new fry skillet at the high school. That's going to be at a cost of about $23,000. Both Everton and Eastview are going to get new walk-in freezers. Those are going to be about $20,400. They're going to be pretty well similar freezers at each of those elementary schools. And the big one that we're going to be putting in is a new dish machine at the middle school at a cost of about $37,400. So, like I said, our cafeteria, and I don't know how much you pay attention to it, the cafeteria, when they're feeding students, when they're not physically here, with boxed meals and pre-done lunches, breakfasts, and dinners, they have really went out of their way. And I know, like with the high school, when we made the determination yesterday of we were going to go to e-learning starting today, when I called Rachel, she said, we'll get it taken care of and we'll be distributing meals, during the day, and they were. So those are just some things you're going to see coming through in regards to cafeteria.
So are you saying that due to COVID and our virtual students, we haven't spent as much through our budget, and so we have to spend down that money, and so we're allowed to make these purchases?
Actually, it's not just so much we haven't spent as much, it's that we've brought in more revenue, because realize that really pretty much since COVID started, we've been feeding, and it keeps getting expanded now. I believe now we're through the end of this school year that all students in Fayette County schools can receive free meals. They're not paying for those. So the federal government through the stimulus dollars and all of those kind of things have added to that has been one factor. Okay. And again, it's just kind of the normal process that we go through. So they've combined it, that our balance in that fund is higher than they would like to see, and so they've said, we want a plan from you of how you're going to do some needed items to spend that down.
All
Well,
right.
and it's really what taxpayers to understand too, is we can't take that money and pay that $30,000 to teachers. This
Right.
money is managed
Earmarked,
through the
just-
federal school lunch program, and the feds have lots of rules, as Kelly knows, that we have to do. And so we've done a really nice job updating all of our cafeterias and kitchens, and there are some things that we need to purchase anyway, but they're putting a timeline on it for us because, we are providing suppers. We provided a lot more meals during that time, and then the federal government changed its reimbursement too, which has provided more money for us. So we'll still be fine in that account. It's just they put a timeline that we have to spend some more, and so we need these items, but they sped the timeline up on us a little for maybe next summer.
Thank you for clarifying.
Yeah.
That was helpful.
Thanks, Randy.
All right, thank you, Randy. Assistant Superintendent's report. Karen?
They're fast this week, or this week.
Whatever it is.
It feels like this week.
Yeah. Superintendent's report.
I just first want to thank Terry Miller. I love visionary people and people who think outside the box, and Terry does. And, you know, we wouldn't be doing all this without the leadership in that department, and also with what David Ray does with our network and all of his team. So I just want to publicly thank them, because when we go back to April and May, and we look at what we didn't know, and we didn't know what this was, and then I look where we're at today, and, you know, that's the start of that, and then our teachers and our administrators who are there, because it's been a hard push to get to where we're at, and we're still not where we need to be, but I think there's been a lot, and we met with 4 of our teacher leaders at the high school yesterday in this room, and our numbers had reached, this is the other part I want to talk about, is people may question, why did you go to e-learning, why did you do this only at the high school, because that's where our numbers of quarantines and kids who were absent had reached that 20% plus mark. And there's a mechanism there. When you get 20% absence in a building, that's an issue that you have to now work with the DOE on, you know, and we have to they track our attendance. And then also our staff. We had a lot of staff who were quarantined, and we got to a point where we were waiting for the next text message from Randy Judd. Who's next? Because we had several students who were waiting for results, and we had a couple students who tested positive at the start of this week. And so then we had another group of kids we were going to have to quarantine. And I'm going to tell you something you may not know, but teenagers don't socially distance. So, I would have been on that field too, probably.
Oh my gosh.
But, you know, that's the one thing I want to be sure that parents understand is our elementaries are holding their own right now. Our middle school, they got some numbers that are we're watching those daily. But right now, we're holding our own. And so when I met with the 4 teachers and Randy and then the 3 of us, you know, I really appreciate what one of our department heads said. Said, we got this. And, you know, that meant a lot. And I emailed our whole staff that. I said, you know, we got this. And I went, that's been our staff all year. And that wouldn't happen without the leadership here and the leadership at our buildings and our teachers and our assistants and our bus drivers. It's been a team effort. And I'm just really proud. I mean, I get touched up a little bit here when I think about that, but the dedication of our staff, and I just want to publicly acknowledge all of them. You know, I think educators in general have taken a little bit of a beating over the years, and I think that viewpoint of our educators has changed out there some, and I appreciate that, because, you know, we have dedicated folks. They're teaching a group of kids online and running 3 screens at one time, while they're teaching a group of kids in their classes, while they're trying to make sure the kids have masks on, the kids are socially distanced, not touching. I mean, it's really, you know, I just commend all of our staff, and you know, people are getting it done. So our goal is to hopefully get our high school back after Thanksgiving, get our extracurriculars back up and running. Right now, there's a lot of districts starting to close. Union County just announced today that they are moving to virtual until the end of the month. There are 2 other area districts they're getting a lot of high numbers with quarantines too in some cases. So I think that wave is moving through. If you look at our state, and hopefully we can flatten this curve, we are starting to see better numbers. I think Fayette County is 14.1% today with positivity rate, so that's down from 24%, I believe. So we just need people to continue to be diligent in helping us keep our schools open. That's my request to the public.
Well, thank you very much for that. I'm going to tag on to that one. You know, I've had a couple of folks comment about what was the plan, and, you know, why are we keeping our schools open when they were open, and the concern that our administrators weren't aware of just how taxing this is. And I just want to assure the public that our administrators, our central office staff, have never worked harder on something that takes so much time. I mean, before COVID, these folks in the room were super busy every day and staying late. And now, probably 50% or more of their time is devoted just to COVID-related stuff. And so I'm so proud to be able to be part of this school corporation. And if anybody out there in the community worries that our administrators aren't paying attention and taking, you know, appropriate measures, it's a daily, minute-by-minute thing that's happening, and I know all of you have got to be exhausted. All the work, the combined effort, all our administrators, and of course, all our teachers, and Scott did a wonderful job commending all our people that are out in there, in the classrooms with the kids. So this has been an amazing amount of work to tackle, and I mean, listening to Terry's presentation and how far we have come in such a short period of time, and it's ever changing. That's the thing, you know, we're good for a couple of weeks, and then we have to be flexible and be able to change. So I admire our administrative staff, not to mention all our people that are in the classroom, our teachers, our aides, our custodians, the bus drivers. I mean, I drive by the buses on, you know, when I'm out on the streets, those bus drivers have their masks on, get a wave, you know, I can't tell they're smiling, so they do a quick wave, and yeah, it's wonderful. So I just want, that's my good of the cause, is to commend everybody in their efforts, and I wish I could say it'd be over soon, but we'll just hope. Anybody else have something for the good of the cause? All right, with that, you know who we're looking to tonight.
So make a motion that we adjourn.
And do I hear a second?
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor signify by raising your hand. Opposed, same sign. Meeting adjourned.